Are the models to blame for this? Should they be held accountable for the craziness that happened? No one was put on lifeboats.
No one.
No one was warned. It's kind of like everything's fine, but it was sinking anyway. Hello and welcome to Girls in the City. I am Carmi.
And this is Allie.
So today we're talking about something that is on the tip of everyone's tongue this week. And it is on social media. It's the Fyre Festival. So this week, a lot has just gone even crazier. So the models that were involved in the Fyre Festival are now being subpoenaed to court because the trustee who's handling this case is seeking out what happened to at least $5.3 million that investors put into this event that has just gone missing, and that I suppose they believe was paid out to these models to promote this event that of course was a fraud. It never happened. So a lot of these models are in trouble now.
Hot water.
They're in hot water this week, and we just want to discuss. We're going to discuss a lot because there's a lot to talk about with this thing. I mean, you could have a whole series just talking about this.
Yeah.
So what we want to know today, what we're going to delve into is, are the models to blame for this? Should they be held accountable for the craziness that happened? Are they at fault? And aside from the models that were in trouble, the company Jerry Media was also subpoenaed, and Jerry Media is actually the company that was hired by the Fyre Festival to handle their social media and pretty much, their marketing and stuff like that. And then IMG Models and DNA Models, which are huge modeling agencies. These agencies have also been subpoenaed. These are agencies that represent Kendall Jenner and Hailey Bieber, Elsa Hosk, and Bella Hadid.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if they represent Kendall actually, but Kendall
she has her own agency or something.
Kendall has been subpoenaed as well.
Yeah.
Kendall was allegedly paid $250,000 by the creator of the Fyre Festival to promote it. So, a lot of people lost money. A lot of investors lost at least $30 million, close to $30 million.
That's insane.
And they still haven't got their money back. So these models might be asked to pay that money back.
Oh my God.
So, I mean, that's crazy. And apparently IMG Models was paid over $1 million as well. So we'll see what goes on with this. I'm not sure if they're going to be asked to pay their money back, but we're going to talk about all of this stuff. So then, of course, we're going to talk about the craziness of
Andy. Well, the Netflix documentary, basically.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about Andy, the hero, King. Captain Andy. Andy is basically one of the people that was involved in this Fyre Festival, and he is now an internet sensation because of what happened on the Netflix documentary, which we're going to get into.
Taking one for the team.
Yeah, he's taking one for the team to a whole new level.
What's going to work? Teamwork. Like, that's Andy. Andy's your man.
We're going to get into that. So for those of you who may be familiar with this event, or those of you who may not be, Fyre Fest was supposed to be an event that took place in 2017. So how it all begins is in 2016, there was a lot of buzz on social media about this event. It was supposed to be the greatest party on the planet. Yeah. So basically, this was supposed to be like the more upscale version of Coachella.
Like the luxury, exotic island Coachella.
Yeah. So how it was advertised on social media was basically they had all these top models. All these models were flown into the Bahamas to promote this, to shoot a promo for this Fyre Festival, which is supposed to be, like I said,
festival.
like a huge music festival. And the faces of this event were a rapper called Ja Rule, who was very popular in the early 2000s. Some of you who were like young in the early 2000s might remember who this person is. He's like, so Ja Rule was one of the faces of this.
Yeah.
So of course, when you attach celebrity to a big event, a lot of the time people are interested and they find it more legitimate.
Yeah.
So Ja Rule went out with this guy, Billy McFarland, who was the co-creator, I guess.
He's a mastermind of this amazing Fyre situation, basically.
So they went out promoting it and talking about it together. It was like a joint thing.
They were partners. They
were partners
in
it and everything. Yeah. But of course, when things went awry, Ja Rule went AWOL.
Yeah, which is pretty interesting.
So there were these 2 documentaries that came out this month. And one was on Hulu, and the other on Netflix. So we watched both of them.
Yeah.
They were both really interesting for different reasons. So Jerry Media and Vice produced this amazing documentary on Netflix, which goes really deep into really what happened behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And it pretty much talks about this sinking ship. It just tells you in detail pretty much what was going on behind the scenes. It gives you a better understanding as to why
what was
this
going
thing
on and why it didn't work out.
Why this thing failed.
Yeah.
The whole time I was watching it, it was like watching the Titanic.
Seriously.
Like, you know, this ship is going to hit an iceberg,
but it just kept going, basically.
But yeah, it's kind of like they hit an iceberg. But they refused to accept that they were sinking, and they tried to just keep going. No one was put on lifeboats.
No one.
No one was warned. It's kind of like everything's fine. The ship must go on.
Yeah, even though it's literally not capable, because
exactly. But it was sinking anyway. Basically, this documentary goes into detail.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend seeing it. It is so interesting. It's pretty long, but it's just really captivating, and I would highly recommend it. So then there's the Hulu documentary. So this documentary pretty much gives us a different perspective. It kind of just delves into more the aftermath of what happened and how people were affected, the people who attended the so-called music festival.
Yeah.
And it also gives us insight into who this guy is, the creator, Billy McFarland.
They actually sit down and speak with him, so you see a little bit more of his side, I guess.
Exactly. And you can make your own conclusions, guys, because, it was interesting. So I recommend seeing both documentaries. Don't just look at one of them and think you know the whole story.
Yeah.
I would recommend looking at both of them. So, now let's get into it. So then, of course, there's I keep forgetting his name.
Andy King.
Andy King, Andy King has become an internet sensation this week.
He's all over right now.
He is one of the greatest memes ever.
He's literally a meme now.
So Andy King was on the Netflix documentary. So basically, he was part of this Fyre Festival. He became involved because he did a lot of events
with Billy
McFarland in the past.
So they became good friends. They worked together.
So for Billy's previous failed entrepreneurship, all his different startups in the past, he had a credit card for millennials. That failed as well. This is how he met this guy who is now the internet star from this Netflix documentary, Andy. So Andy basically was working with them for this event, and let's talk about Andy last, actually.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the models now. Let's save that for last. He's good.
Stole the show.
So now let's talk about this whole thing with the models. The models were basically, in 2016, these models were all asked to do a promo. They were flown to the Bahamas to do a promo for this festival, this music festival. They filmed it, they shot it, and It all looked really good. Everyone was talking about it. A lot of influencers were asked to do it as well.
I do remember, though, at the time, I saw these commercials, and I remember wondering, like, how did they get all these people? Because it was the top models at the time, and I was like, wow, this is actually, it's bigger than I thought it was. Like, when I first saw, like, a little commercial about it, but the more I saw it, I was like, wow, this is interesting. You know, I didn't really care to go, but I thought it was kind of interesting that they had all these top people promoting it.
Yeah, so
Little did I know,
personally, like, I just didn't, I really didn't bother to, like, look deeper into it or anything.
Same.
Now I wish I did.
Me too. I wish I, like, clicked the website and,
Me
like,
too.
followed.
However, there was this promo that actually apparently it went viral really quickly. And so people were ordering their tickets and everything. They were like, oh, they're limited. Go to the Fyre website, all that stuff. And people were really intrigued by this. And people actually went out and bought these tickets. They sold out really quickly.
Yeah, and these tickets were pretty expensive.
Yeah, these tickets were $250,000. And people bought them and they sold out in days.
Yeah.
Now here's the crazy part. These tickets sold out before anything was ever even
set in stone.
Nothing was planned. There was no
There was no headliner. Like, there was no roster.
There was no roster of talent.
It was a music festival.
There was no location set.
Yeah.
So the ad said, "Oh, we were going to be at Pablo Escobar's private island," which they lost. By the way, they didn't really have that.
Yeah, it wasn't a deal set in stone.
There was no real deal made or anything at that point. I mean, nothing was organized, but the tickets were sold. People bought into it. People were ready to just go out there and party.
In the middle of nowhere.
In the middle of nowhere with nothing else really set in stone.
To a music festival and you didn't even know who was performing. That's something.
That is something. Yeah. That is the power of social media.
Power. And they were promised villas and mansions and, like,
so that
yacht parties.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They were promised, the website promised people that they were going to have these villas, they were going to have these options, and they could pay more money to have better accommodation. There were going to be yachts. There was going to be all this amazing stuff, and you were going to see Lissandra Ambrosio, laying down by the beach next to you. And stuff.
Party with the supermodels.
Basically.
It was a fantasy kind of thing.
They were selling a fantasy, and people bought into it. So, fast forward to a couple of months later. The event is approaching, and still no word on where these people are going to sleep, where they're going to stay, what their travel arrangements were going to be. The promo basically told them, oh, you're going to fly in a private jet, there's going to be planes for you, but in the meantime, there's a lot of chaos going on behind the scenes, because none of this is set in stone. So you know this is bad when the main event, the main artist, the biggest artist
when they finally released,
is Blink-182. I'm not saying anything's wrong with Blink-182.
No offense to them.
When I was like, maybe, how old was I?
don't even.
8 years old. Blink-182 was huge. How old was I?
Like, it was a long time
I was
ago.
not even 10 years old, and Blink-182 had this one hit called All the Small Things, and everyone in second grade was singing it. That's all I know about Blink-182. I liked that song when I was a kid, blah, 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 yada, yada, but Blink-182, I'm not going to pay $250,000 to see Blink-182.
Definitely not.
And
that's the only name that was
recognizable.
The
most recognizable name that was on their roster of
artists. There was no Coachella lineup, basically.
They didn't have Beyonce, guys. It was not that kind of event. Like, there was no Maroon 5. There was no Kesha. Taylor Swift. I mean, there were it was Blink-182 was the big act.
And then Ja Rule was
Ja Rule was popular
the person.
in the early 2000s.
Like, I think just those two artists, that
should tell you something.
It's a warning flag.
It's a warning sign. Okay, that was already, big red flag. I should probably not be paying this much money for it. So I'm not blaming the victims here.
No, not at
People
all.
were just trying to have a good time, whatever. And of course, the social media went really crazy.
The marketing was so great, so you can't,
Social media went really crazy with mocking these people. How would you spend that much money? Because, people do have this thing against, like, if you're wealthy, people just hate you because you're wealthy, and people want to mock you for it. I'm not mocking anyone who did that, because people were trying to have fun, okay?
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't pay that much money to see Blink-182, but
Would I?
I've paid a lot of money just to do other dumber
things, which people might not do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
To
we're
each
not
their
going
own,
to mock
basically.
the victims here.
Yeah.
These guys were hooked by this ad that was
By
promising...
really good marketing, yeah.
Yeah, this... You know, they were targeting younger people. They were targeting millennials. They were targeting...
It was more about the experience, really.
Yeah,
so I guess it
feel
didn't
like people
matter
were probably
who was
paying
gonna go.
more for the experience.
Yeah,
exactly.
not just the act.
It was advertised as like a once-in-a-lifetime experience. So I feel like people were like, well, I don't think people really minded who was going to perform.
It's just the
as long as they were going to have fun.
experience of it, yeah.
And I think that's fair, right? That's
totally
okay.
fair.
So moving forward, Blink-182 ends up canceling at the last minute. They're like, sorry guys, we're not going to be able to perform because we don't think we can give our fans a good show.
Yeah.
So, of course, again, that should kind of be like another red
I feel
flag.
like looking back now, it makes you think. They were trying to say something, I feel, you know? Or maybe they weren't, but there's something in what they said, the release that they released, which when you know the background of what really happened, they really weren't going to be able to give you what, you know, what they would feel their fans should
I
get,
don't
because
know.
nothing was going to happen.
I wouldn't go that deep. For me personally, I would just feel like, hey, like if I'm going to Coachella and maybe like a big, well, Coachella is huge, so
Yeah.
it's different. But this is a new festival, and for me, what the red flags would be the fact that you still don't know where you're going to be sleeping. You still don't know. They haven't communicated any of this to you, and then the big acts start pulling out.
Oh, yeah, that's
to me,
definitely
that would
a
be the
red
red flag.
flag,
I
yeah.
wouldn't really think about, you know, Blink-182's
No, I'm not exactly. I'm not
concert.
saying.
I mean, what for me would just be the whole thing of wait, they still haven't told us where we're gonna
Yeah, no,
sleep.
that's not. I definitely
We
didn't
still
mean
don't
that
know
with
how
the
we're
quote.
gonna get there, and the acts are pulling out
Something
at
is
the
not
last
right.
minute.
Yeah.
And of course, people were starting to get really alarmed. So people were posting on social media and asking questions like, "Hey, you still haven't gotten back to us about this or that. How are we traveling? Blah blah blah." Nothing was set in stone, and then everything these people said was being deleted. So everything was being deleted to the point that they ended up, there were so many complaints and questions that they were blocked. Nobody was allowed to comment on the Fyre Festival social media anymore. Jerry Media claimed that that wasn't their responsibility. It wasn't their job to answer questions. They tried to forward people's
Yeah, they claimed they were in the dark too.
Yeah,
about
they tried to
those
forward
details.
people's concerns to the Fyre Festival, customer service, or something like that. No one was answering them, so they just kind of turned off comments. But from the perspective of a person who was supposed to be attending, that would be another red flag for me.
Yeah.
At that point, I feel like I would possibly just cancel my credit card. I would, like, you know, talk to my bank and just try to cancel out those charges. I don't know. That's just me. Again, I'm not victim blaming anyone here. But fast forward, the day of the event happens, and this is where it gets really interesting. This is when I really started paying attention to this event. People start making posts. People that are attending the event start making these posts saying
it's not what they said it was gonna be.
yeah, it looked like basically the apocalypse had fallen over the Bahamas, which is usually, that's such a beautiful place, but it did not look beautiful. It looked like crap. So basically people got there, they were not staying at the private island they were promised. The website basically deleted all the images that it had previously to these villas that people were promised. They were all gone from the website. All of it was gone. And people arrived there. They were promised gourmet food and all of that stuff. They ended up arriving at what looked like a FEMA campsite.
Oh yeah.
Basically, there were no villas.
No villas, just tents.
These were literally FEMA tents.
Yeah, actual FEMA tents. We're not just saying that, like they actually were.
Yeah, these tents
Leftover
were
tents.
literally hurricane tents. These were supposed to be for hurricane victims.
So horrible.
And this is what these people who paid all this money were staying in. So of course there was trouble ensued. It was all a hot mess. You guys need to watch the Netflix documentary or the Hulu documentary, but I recommend watching both. And you guys will see exactly what unfolded. So basically, they have these pictures going viral online, and then the media, of course, grabs the media's attention. It goes all over the place. This is where I started paying attention.
Yeah,
I'm like, what is going on here? And then, so they're posting pictures of these miserable sandwiches. It was just
this one cheese sandwich. It's
a
like
mess.
Caught the eye of everyone.
People got trapped on this island.
Yeah, people were at the airport, like sitting on the floor and pretty much stranded.
They were stranded, and this is where the Hulu documentary goes a little bit deeper into explaining more what happened to these people. It was just really upsetting, really sad, and I feel like they do deserve their money back. Not only them, but of course the investors as well, because now this Billy McFarland guy, who was partners with Ja Rule, basically told all these investors, he just pretty much gave them, allegedly, I guess, false reports. Like, he gave them these projections that it was going to be great, everything was on schedule, everything was going well, when in fact it was not the case. The site was a disaster. The acts were canceled at the last minute because there was just no way it was going to happen. It was a hot mess.
Yeah, like, there was no housing, and then the tents that they did have got soaked in the rain.
Yeah, it was terrible.
But they still kept that from people and allowed people to get on the island knowing everything was a disaster. So
it was absolutely terrible. So now we're going to get into, so now we get it. It failed. Didn't work out. So now fast forward to now. The models that were paid to promote this event are being held
some people feel like they should be held accountable. Yeah.
So now we want to know what you guys think. Should they be held accountable? That's what we want to talk about today. So here's the thing. Going back to my days as an influencer and as a model, I'm 24 years old. I started modeling when I was 14 years old, so it's been a while that I've been modeling. I understand exactly how the modeling industry works. You sign a deal with, you have contracts with sometimes even more than one modeling agency. I had 3 different modeling agencies. You can have an agency in Europe, you can have a different agency in Asia, and a different agency in the United States. Some models just sign with one agency, some sign with even more than that. So basically what happens is the agents will get requests from different clients looking for different things. They're looking for different models, or maybe for a photo shoot, or to promote for an ad, or just whatever it is, for an event. Whatever the case is, they go to the agency if they want access to the models. And they will say, sometimes they'll choose which models they want, and sometimes, a lot of the time, the models will be sent to what I guess some people will call that an audition, but it's called a go-see. You go to these go-sees, you go normally with your portfolio, and these clients will see you, and you will basically, I guess in technical terms, it's called basically like an audition. You walk for them, or they see you, blah blah blah, they look at your book, and they'll decide if they want to call you, if they want to book you for whatever this event is or not. And it could be anything. It could be something on TV. It could be a Chanel show. It could be a high-end event where they need models. It could be just all sorts of things. So basically, when they select the models, the agency will normally, they have a budget, and they will typically pay the agency, and you will get your fee from the agency. So the agency will get their fee from you, whatever. The agency takes a percentage, but typically you're paid through your modeling agency.
Not directly.
Exactly. A lot of the time, you're basically just doing what you're told when you're a model. You go to these things, and you're told, this is the time you're going to walk. You go for your fittings, you do whatever. If you're filming something, you go there, you're given instructions on what to do.
Yeah.
So you're basically just there. Yeah, you're basically just there to do what you're told to do, and that's what you get paid for, and you leave. You don't know what these people are, if they're going to follow through with their event or not, or their commercial or whatever it was. All you're there to do is your job. You're paid to do it, and you leave after that. That's that. That is the job of a model. When you're an influencer, basically what you do is for me, how it worked anyways, I was approached by different companies, sometimes via my agency and sometimes just directly. They would send maybe to my manager or directly to my email account. And they would ask me to, oh, we'll send you this and that in exchange for,
Yeah.
So a lot of the stuff that I did, the clothes that I was wearing on Instagram, blah, 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 I was basically doing it as they would give me these clothes. These are not necessarily my own clothes. Well, they become my own clothes because they're given to me for free. But it's basically an ad, and I have to tag them. You're basically doing sponsored posts. So I did sponsored posts for these companies. It's work. It's what you do.
Yeah.
And you promote them and stuff like that. But of course, when you're an influencer, you have more of an option to choose who you're going to work with. You could either say yes or you could say no to different things. For me, I did try my best to go with companies that I tried their products and they were not bad, they were good, and I would promote them as such. A lot of the time, I preferred to work with companies that I actually believed in, and that's pretty much how it works. Some influencers are not going to pick the companies, even if some influencers obviously have no boundaries. They'll just do whatever it takes to get free stuff and money. But for me, like, of course, in the beginning, I took more companies, but then, of course, I learned, like, I don't really like this product. But, of course, only after having it and using it for a few months, but sometimes it would be too late. I've already made my post. So I became more strict with that in the end. But basically, an influencer is just basically doing their job also. They're promoting stuff. It's up to them to decide, okay, is this a product I really want to be affiliated with or not? So here comes the question of whether these models should be held responsible, and these influencers. Should they just go blindly? Do you feel like they just blindly went into it and just, because some influencers will do that, which they'll take anything that comes their way and they just attach their name to anything, but without really following through. But let me tell you, from the perspective of an influencer, you can't always know who's going to come through or not. Yeah. When you're working with these people, it's very professional. Like, they're coming to you, like, they need your advertising. You're basically a walking advertisement. So they're coming to you and they need you to help promote their product, and that's your job. That's what you do. So should you be held accountable for promoting something that
but you're just
that may not work out in the end?
Yeah, I don't think you should be held accountable because you're literally just there to do your job, and your job is to promote, So whether or not, it's a little tricky because this was an actual event that was taking place, so it's not an actual product necessarily. So there was no way of the models knowing whether this event was going to happen or not. They're not part of the planning process. They're not the organizers. They're just there to shoot a video or to post some stuff on social media to promote an upcoming event. So it's not like they were promoting let's say, a razor or like a phone that doesn't actually work.
Yeah. So I was thinking that too. I was thinking when it's a product, it's a little bit different from an event, right?
Yeah, because the product may not work well or whatever. It's physically there. It's tangible.
Yeah. But when it comes to an event that hasn't even happened yet, how can you blame them for that? You know what I mean?
Like, they can't foresee what's going to happen, when it's a natural event.
So here's the thing. When I was doing this, I always made sure that I put that it was sponsored or hashtag ad. Most of these models didn't do that. So join us in the second part, because we're going to talk about what Andy did, and we're going to talk about influencers and their responsibility when it comes to sponsored posts. So yeah, we'll meet you in part 2, and thank you for listening. This is Girls in the City.